Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm back here in the UK. I hope you are all doing well. It feels like a very long time since I've actually done a proper informative vlog. So I thought before I show you all my lovely travel videos from the Philippines, I would first do this informative vlog to tell you all you need to know if you are also going home or going back to the Philippines for a holiday. So this is what I'm going to be talking about in this video. First, I'm going to tell you all the travel documents that you need in order to go to the Philippines and come back to the UK without any issues. Second, I'm going to talk about budget. How much money do you need to send to the Philippines so that you have enough pocket money to spend during your holiday. Third is the length of stay you are allowed to be in the Philippines depending on your status. Fourth, accommodation in the Philippines. Fifth, I will be sharing to you the non-holiday things I did in the Philippines, which you should definitely do if you are going there anyway. If you are a British or a dual citizen like me, on top of your passport and your flight itinerary, the only other thing you need to do is to do your eTravel pass on eTravel.gov.ph. On that website, you need to fill in your personal details, your passport details, and your COVID vaccination details. Once you've completed that, you will be given on the website itself and on an email after the process a QR code which you will present to the immigration officer as soon as you enter the Philippines. So the QR code looks like this, and you can either have a printed one or have it saved on your phone. As for me, in case my phone battery runs out or it gets lost or stolen, I always have a printed copy of both my eTravel pass and of course my flight itinerary. If you are planning to travel to different areas in the Philippines, up until this time, there are still varying rules per location. So you might also want to download your COVID vaccination pass from your NHS app and have it ready on your phone as a PDF. If you are still on your work visa, then you need to get an overseas employment certificate or an OEC from POLO, London. So I've seen a lot of posts about this being quite hard to get if you need an appointment. So basically, if you are not changing employer when you get back, there is an option to do everything online, okay? But if you come back to a different employer, then you will need to have a face-to-face appointment. So to be honest, I haven't done this latest OEC stuff because I'm already a British citizen, but there is a very good article that writes all of the steps. I'm gonna put down the link in the video description and you can have a read on that as well. One last document that most Filipinos don't really do, but actually can be very useful, is to have a travel insurance. This is especially important if you've got a lot of travel plans during your holiday period and anything could go wrong, things could go missing, your flight might be cancelled, your flight might be delayed, okay? And any cost for any of those problems, you can claim it back through your insurance if there was any problem. So one tip I can give you, and I've been doing this since 2015, so there are certain bank accounts in the UK that includes worldwide family travel insurance, okay? That's already part of having the account, so you don't have to pay every single time you need to travel abroad. So that's what I've been using. So really, it gives me a lot of peace of mind when I travel, whether it's within the UK or back to the Philippines or to other countries, because I know that I'm insured. So if anything happens, I have the capacity to claim whatever amount is needed in order to replace lost things or to buy for flights or to pay for accommodation if there are any problems with the travel. I know we Filipinos are not very good with that, especially if we're just traveling back to the Philippines because that is our country, but actually have a very good think about that. And just to share a quick story as well, we have this workmate, a Filipino workmate, back in my old hospital. He went for holiday in the Philippines. He's very into basketball, broke his arm, was hospitalized for I think about 2 or 3 weeks, and he took the best room in the hospital because he was insured and everything was paid for. Didn't pay anything from his own pocket, not even a pence. Okay? So that's how important insurance can be. Now let's talk about budget. How much money do you need? Now just to give you a heads up, everything in the Philippines has increased in cost. Whether it's transport, accommodation, even your food, everything has increased. So if you haven't been back to the Philippines for 2 years or more, then don't expect that the money you used before is gonna be the same and enough amount to spend again if you are coming home this year or the following year. So to give you a solid example that you can appreciate, so when I was back in the Philippines in 2019, pre-pandemic, Coca-Cola 1 liter in those glass bottles that we have in the Philippines was about 26-27 pesos. Now, it is the least price you can find in any store is 45 pesos. And majority just sell it for flat 50 pesos, okay, for 1 liter of Coca-Cola. Another example is your Nesty or your Tang powdered juices, your litro pack that makes up 1 liter. I remember that being 10 pesos before, then 2019 it was 12 pesos. Now it is 20 pesos just for that single pack. So that's how much prices have increased. So for me, excluding the flights, I spent approximately 97,000 pesos, and that's me staying for 5 weeks in the Philippines, staying in my grandmother's house most of the time. It was only about 1 week where I am not in my grandmother's house, so I had to pay for accommodation for that. But basically for a full month, I was in my grandmother's house. So if you are not going to be in your old house and you have to rent for a condominium, then that is going to be an additional cost. You have to consider as well your location in the Philippines. So just as before, prices in Cebu can be much cheaper than prices in Manila. So if you wanted to buy, say, a viand that's good for one person plus rice, about 30 pesos, you would get that in Cebu City, but you can't get that in Manila. So you have to consider that. So for me, if I wanted a resto meal for lunch and dinner every day, and then just a simple breakfast in the morning, that I would budget around 500 pesos per day. Okay, so you multiply that by the number of days you're staying in the Philippines, and obviously you're not going to be eating the same thing. You might want to go to a fancier restaurant or have a family gathering where you will be paying for it. So you make sure to consider that when you compute your budget. Also think about and set aside some amount in case there are problems with your travel or your flight is cancelled or delayed and you have to stay in such place a lot longer than you expect. So then you would have to continue paying for accommodation. You know that the companies in the Philippines are not as good as, say, companies in the UK or in the US, where they compensate you for these delays or provide hotels for you. So make sure you also leave some budget for those emergency cases. With regards to transport, the minimum fare now in the jeepneys is 12 pesos. And although you get that odd driver who will be asking you for 15 pesos as a minimum. So if you don't have a car or you rely on taxi a lot, you have to take in the travel cost because that's going to be a major spend as well. So how long can you stay? If you are an OFW, that means you are still a Filipino citizen. Obviously, you can stay as much as you want in the Philippines without any restrictions. If you are a British national, not a former Filipino, British national, and you are traveling to the Philippines, you have 30 days of visa-free travel. But anything beyond that, then you have to get a travel visa. If you are now a British citizen but you are a former Filipino, we have what we call a balikbayan privilege that allows you to stay in the Philippines for up to 1 year without needing any visa. So you can read this online, but also I personally confirmed this because before I left the Philippines back in March, I actually didn't know this. So I had to ask the Philippine Embassy through their Facebook Messenger and their Twitter, but they are more responsive in Facebook, whether I had to get a visa because my stay is beyond 30 days. And then they replied all of this information that yes, I can stay up to 1 year in the Philippines without any visa, even if I'm not a dual citizen at that point. So you can stay for 1 year without any visa. In terms of accommodation, it is always easier and budget-friendly if you, of course, go back to a family home and stay there for majority of your vacation. But if you don't have anywhere to go back to because all of your family members are already abroad, then you'd have to pay for accommodation. The most budget-friendly accommodation option is either Airbnb or a long-term rental in a local condominium. And just to give you an idea of the price range of condominiums slash Airbnbs nowadays. So in Cebu, a condominium that is within the city, which is 10 to 15 minutes walk to a mall or a commercial area, now cost between 2,000 to 2,500 pesos per night. The shorter the number of days you're staying for that accommodation, the more tendency that they give you the higher rate. But if you stay for longer, say 2 weeks or even let's say 30 days, then you would be able to haggle for a discount. With Airbnb, you are not able to haggle or get any discount for that because that is standardized and it's put on the app itself. For me, for my first 2 days, I rented a condominium because I had a surprise planned for my mom. Instead of going to Airbnb, I joined this Facebook group for Cebu condominium for rent. And from there, I posted that these are the dates that I need and this is my price range. Please can you message me your available options. By doing that, I got several responses in my private messages and I was able to compare. With their messages, they would be telling you their amenities, whether they have a pool, and they show you photos of the actual place. So it's quite good because you get to compare, and if you are staying for longer, then you can ask for a discount and say, if I'm staying for 1 week, can I get a 500 peso discount? I know some will be criticizing and say, oh, you've got money, you're working in the UK, then how come you're still looking for discounts? Well, let me tell you, that money we have, we worked hard for that, and every peso counts, especially if you are an OFW, because you know what it is, you will be the one spending most of the time if you are having a holiday back in the Philippines. But if you were in Manila or any areas near that, then obviously the rent would be much higher. So take that into consideration. Now this fifth part is very important. These are the non-holiday things that I did whilst I was back in the Philippines.